Welcome to the first episode of the No Scrubs of Vet Med podcast. My name is Grace. I'm a current second-year veterinary student, and today I am joined with Autumn, one of my friends and a classmate and a colleague. Today we're going to be discussing staying positive as a pre-vet through challenges and discouragement. Thank you so much, Autumn, for joining us on the first episode of the No Scrubs podcast. Tell me a little bit more about you and your area of interest.
I'm a second-year veterinary student at UGA, and my area of interest is small animal. I did my undergrad at UGA as well. I've lived in the Athens area most of my life, and I've always kind of wanted to do small animal medicine, and I'm still continuing on that path so far.
I love that. So kind of discussing your background in veterinary medicine, I know that you had interest in vet med when you were really, really young. So kind of walk me through your steps of getting into the field of veterinary medicine, either as a high schooler or an undergrad. How was that process for you, and how did you first kind of get introduced to veterinary medicine?
Yeah, so I always knew I kind of wanted to do vet med, and then I started doing really small things, even starting in middle school. Just volunteering at the shelter, doing basic things like that, even if it was just puppy or kitten socialization, just kind of get my foot in the door. And then as high school came, I continued doing that through the shelter, and I did a work-based learning program through my high school, which allowed me to go be a kennel tech at a local veterinary clinic for my experience and for class credit, which was really cool. And that was actually kind of how I got my foot in the door with my first official true veterinary experience at a clinic. And through that, I was able to secure an actual job there throughout that summer before I started college. Then throughout college, I worked on and off as a veterinary assistant at Simply Sterile in Athens and did some volunteer work and shadowing dispersed throughout.
How do you recommend students to gain their own experiences? And from your experience, how did you gain those experiences when you were in college?
Yeah, my biggest advice, and what I know that I feel like a lot of people I know in veterinary school did that I really recommend, is starting as a kennel tech or volunteering, shadowing, getting your foot in the door, kind of getting to know them, let them get to know you, and really even from the very beginning as a kennel tech, showing your work ethic and continuing on and expressing your desire to go to veterinary school and eventually move up in the clinic. That's how I got my position as a veterinary assistant. I worked there for about a year and a half as a kennel tech before I was able to go up and be a vet assistant when they had some openings and kind of grow from there.
Yeah, I think a big thing that you're harking on is growth in veterinary medicine. Like, so many people have to start off either as a volunteer or as a kennel tech and kind of work their way up in those positions, because a lot of people are entering the field with very little experience or just like animal husbandry experience in general. And so kind of everything is stepwise. And so you kind of have to start in the kennel or work as a volunteer or just gain exposure with animals so that you're comfortable with animal handling. Okay, then once you have animal handling exposure and you're comfortable in that role, you can kind of step up into the veterinary assistant positions, kind of learn as you go. So I think a big thing that you're really echoing, and I continue to echo with students that I work with, is start at the bottom. You know, you have to put in your dues somewhere. You have to scoop the poop. You have to clean the kennels. You have to do the yucky jobs that people might not want to do. That's kind of where everyone starts. And then from there, you can have opportunities arise where you can become the veterinary assistant. What do you say to pre-vets who are really passionate about one path, whether it be small animal or large animal? How should they kind of diversify their experiences? Would you recommend as a vet student that they should diversify their experiences before coming to vet school? Speak a little bit on that topic of diverse experiences, whether it be your own or what you wish you had before coming to vet school.
Yeah, of course. So I always knew I was primarily focused on small animals, so the majority of my hours were focused on that. But I feel like from an admission standpoint and my own personal view, I do feel it's important to diversify your hours. As an applicant, I feel as I relied more on my GPA than my hours. I had a decent amount of animal experience hours from my time as a kennel tech, but in true vet experience, I would put myself on the lower side of vet experience hours. I know the requirement to apply at UGA was 250,
Yeah.
I want to say, and I think I sat only about the 400 or 500 mark, and I'm saying 500 generously, but I think what stood apart about my hours is that I really did quality over quantity,
100%.
and I made sure to really diversify my experiences within that. Did I at least think I wanted to go into large animal at that point in time? No, but I also knew to be a veterinarian, that's a field that you have to, at the very minimum, for your NAVLE to be well-rounded. And so for those, I focused less on, I feel like small animal, I worked more jobs and like truly day to day. And then large animal, my experiences, I had that farm kind of experience one-on-one, got to see what she did. And then my other large animal experience is through a program at EGA that I felt like was amazing at just getting my foot in the door for those hours. It was the large animal emergency and critical care team through the UGA VTH. Most of it was just kind of being on foal watch or for dummy foals, anything like that. I've looked after some sheep, but a lot of it's monitoring, but it was a great introduction to that large animal field and kind of getting what does it look like in a hospital setting, anything like that, because genuinely before that, my last experience was a horse was probably a pony party when I was maybe 7. So I felt like it gave me a really good view of the differences between that kind of medicine, and especially from the farm perspective, gave me an insight into population health, because small animal is so focused on the individual. I feel like it really helped me with that perspective, which helped me a lot when I was applying. And along with that, I had some poultry hours actually.
Yes.
I worked as a hatchery assistant in undergrad for a summer, and that was not a great experience. But once again, not a field that I'm looking to go into permanently, but I feel like having that diversity in your hours strengthens not only your application, but my perspective as going into the field as a veterinarian, as a veterinary student. I feel like it gives you a good basis. I feel like it made me well-rounded.
Yeah, I can't agree more. I think that diversifying experiences helps generate phenomenal vet students, phenomenal pre-vets, and phenomenal veterinarians, because it really makes you think outside the box.
Mm-hmm.
Also, when you go to veterinary school, they want to make sure that you're not going to get kicked by the horse, and that you know how to handle yourself around angry cows. You're put into a lot of precarious situations as a veterinary student, and you have to maximize your learning. And so having an understanding of animal husbandry for different species and just general practices, which you accumulate just by shadowing and experience in the field, really, really helps as a student. As you said, the NAVLE is comprehensive. Veterinary school is comprehensive. A lot of schools are moving away from the tracking curriculum and broadening experiences in veterinary school, sending people off to clinics sooner. So having broad experiences in your pre-vet career can really help you be set up for success in the long run. So I completely agree there.
I know you're small animal focused as well. Did you feel you focused more so on that, or where were your I know you switched also from human med to vet med, so that kind of changes your experience path, but how would you say that went for you?
Yeah, so when I was in human med, I had a lot of research hours. I had less clinical hands-on hours, just because it's a little bit harder to accumulate those types of hours just because of laws and things like that. But I definitely worked more as a medical assistant, kind of a medical scribe and research when I was in human med. Then when I pivoted to veterinary medicine, same thing. I had to start from the bottom and work my way up. So a great way that I did that is I started working in wildlife, an area that's very underserved. I knew that I would be able to get my foot in the door really quickly, and I'm also really passionate about wildlife. I've always loved wildlife. So I found a phenomenal wildlife rehabilitation center just a car ride away from home, and I took on a position there as a volunteer. And once they realized that I wanted to go to veterinary school, they very quickly gave me additional roles and responsibilities and tasks and made me much more of a veterinary technician than anything. I was calculating fluid rates, I was giving fluids to birds, I was helping with radiographs, I was doing really traditional veterinary technician / veterinary assistant roles through this wildlife rehabilitation center, and I accumulated a lot of hours there very, very quickly, took on more responsibilities, leadership positions. Then I knew that I wanted to be in small animal general practice, so I pivoted to that type of position. I applied to a veterinary assistantship where they were looking for a veterinary assistant without a certification. They said, we're willing to train you, we're willing to make an investment in you, but we really need help as soon as possible. I said, this is the perfect opportunity. I was very transparent with them about what my experiences were, that of course I understood some animal husbandry and proper restraint and things like that, but I hadn't really drawn blood on dogs and cats. I hadn't run diagnostic plans for dogs and cats. I had in wildlife, but there was definitely some knowledge gaps. And they said, I think that you're the perfect person for this role. So I stepped into that position, but just kind of reiterating, working from the bottom up and learning positions, taking on additional roles and responsibilities as needed. And that was kind of how I stepped into my roles.
Yeah, well, I know you have a rather unique path with that, but I feel like all of the main points you made, it stands on that original basis of you have to start somewhere. It's never too late, in my opinion. And I applied for roles when I did have less experience. I felt like what was helpful or key in getting those roles almost was the way I positioned it. I tried to not position it as, I don't know what I'm doing. I tried to position it as, hey,
this is what I know.
This is what I know.
This is how I can make a positive impact.
Exactly. I'm a quick learner, and I don't have any bad habits. You can train me exactly the way that you would like, and anything like that. I feel like it's all about mindset and flexibility,
being able to take on responsibilities, quickly adapt. Those are all key skills that you need, not only as a pre-vet, but in veterinary school. You need to be very malleable. You need to be able to forget what you know and learn quickly and apply whatever knowledge you have to a different concept. You have to have that flexibility and malleability, and building those skills as a pre-vet is critical, in my opinion.
I know I would completely agree with that, 100%.
And stepping into some of these forms of experiences, whether it's as a kennel tech or a veterinary assistant, what would you say was a challenge that you faced stepping into these roles?
I feel like a big challenge that I faced personally was honestly getting my foot into the field. I feel like it can be very overwhelming and intimidating. And that was a big challenge for me. I had a lot of imposter syndrome. I felt like I don't belong in these spaces. And not all places, but unfortunately, I have had experiences where I felt that was validated. And even if it was once or twice, it really reinforced that in my mind that, like, oh gosh, like, what if I'm not smart enough to be here? Like, what if this is a mistake? But on the bright side of that, it did make me really realize I never wanted to make someone feel like that, as whether it be a pre-vet, another doctor, a technician, anyone. I never wanted someone to experience what I did. And it really made me realize that in those places where you can't find that kind of positivity or support, you can build that.
100%.
And even at some of those places, like, I built relationships with people that were positive and supportive, and you can't control anything else but yourself.
100%.
And I feel like that's really important, and just being the light and bringing the energy that you would like to receive has really served me well as a pre-vet, as a veterinary student, and just using that as your anchor during those hard times. And I feel like it's not wrong to say, if you're feeling like that, I don't think it's wrong to go explore other places.
Yeah, 100%.
Find your people, find where you fit in.
Yeah.
Everyone's different. It's life.
Yeah.
Like this summer, I had an amazing externship. It was one of my favorite experiences in vet med, summer between first and second year, and it was amazing. Unfortunately, it sounds sad to say, and I don't mean to sound negative, but it was one of the first times that I truly felt supported in the field. I had doctors and techs who believed in me, who wanted me to grow, who just wanted the best for me and wanted to teach me.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's a key point. That was a big challenge almost as a pre-vet. It can be discouraging to try to find a place that wants to teach you.
Yeah.
I feel like that's a huge thing, and something that if you're looking for those experiences, I don't think it's a question you should be afraid to ask. Hey, I do want to pursue this further. I want to go to veterinary school. Or, hey, I've never been in a position like this. What is your protocol for teaching new staff? What is your mentorship like?
100%.
Anything like that. I don't think those are questions you should shy away from asking. It's questions I wish I harped on more in my pre-vet experiences. And I feel like it tells you a lot about a practice in that sense of, like, how am I going to grow here?
Yeah.
And looking at a lot of their other staff, what paths did they take? Like, did they also work their way up? Like, I feel like, in my opinion, that's a great sign to show that, like,
exactly,
they're committed
growth.
to teaching.
Or even, have you had individuals here who have gone on to vet school? Like, have you helped support individuals and cultivate that passion for veterinary medicine from high school, college, and into veterinary school?
Yes.
I think that what you're touching on is so key, and I'm sorry that you experienced this challenge and this discouragement throughout some of your experiences, but there's definitely some cultures in veterinary medicine where they're less supportive, figure it out on your own. I didn't have support, so I'm not going to support you mentality. And on the other side of the spectrum, there's people who are craving to mentor students, who really want to make an impact in students' lives. And so just finding the right experience for you is critical. And as you said, asking the tough questions. It's not just about you gaining veterinary experience hours, it's about longevity, quality of your experience, and really cultivating your passion for the field. Sitting stagnant in one position, even if you're accumulating veterinary experience hours, if you're not happy, leave. Find somewhere else. Find someone who's willing to mentor you, who's willing to support you. And so I think that that's just a really important thing to remember, that there's always going to be another experience. I mean, if you're somewhere very, very rural and that's your only veterinarian, then you might be in a little bit of a trickier situation. But if you have the opportunity to work somewhere else or shadow somewhere else, and you feel like you're not being validated, you're not learning, you're not being supported properly, you don't want to have a negative, sour taste in your mouth from one practice. If you don't think you're being valued, if you don't love the experience, find somewhere else.
Yeah, and I feel like another big point of that is just remembering, if you can't leave the practice or while you're still looking, it's easy to get down and be like, oh my gosh, just remembering that those people are out there that do want to mentor you, that do want to teach you. And at the end of the day, in my experience personally, you're going to grow more at those places, because not only do they want to teach you these things, when you're learning, a lot of learning is stepping out of your comfort zone. It's being in that uncomfortable space. But what I feel like gives you the strength to do that is having a safe place to fall, if you will. You have people that they want you, they're okay with you making those mistakes while you learn. They want to support you and help you get better.
Yeah.
And I feel like places I had that, I grew exponentially more.
Yeah.
But that's what got me through the challenges. I feel like the most was just knowing those people were out there and I just had to find them. And also just remembering that, like, this is transient. Like, their opinions of me are not fact. they say, just that whole sort of thing, and knowing that taking that as growth when I go further in the field, I don't want to have that kind of culture in a practice that I work, own, anything.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
And also, like, believing in yourself is so key. Like, if you don't believe in yourself, how do you expect others to believe in you? So when you're in these types of scenarios, even if you're still learning, it's okay to say, I don't know, and give an educated guess, or say, I don't know, and try to piece it out together. Being confident in your answers, being confident in your skills, being confident in you as a candidate, as an individual, as a pre-vet, as someone who's learning. We're learning as veterinary students
every day.
Veterinarians learn every single day. It's not a position that you know everything when you graduate. It's not a position that you know anything when you're 30 years into the career. So just reminding yourself of that and just being confident in learning, growing, staying positive, like those are key things that you can control and that you can manage as a pre-vet student to help you get through some of these trickier experiences that you're dealing with.
And remembering everyone started somewhere.
Yeah.
No one came into this knowing everything that they know now. It comes from experience. It comes from learning the growth in that uncomfortable phase. And that also helped me a lot, just remembering everyone had their first day once. I mean, that's kind of my perspective on it, but how would you say, what tips do you have if someone does feel like they're stuck in an environment like that, or situation, they're stuck in their workplace, they're not growing, whatever the case may be?
There's always other opportunities. Continue to look for those opportunities. Find places that value you, that see your potential, that will support you, mentor you, support you throughout your veterinary school application. At the end of the day, you're going to be looking for individuals to write you a letter of recommendation, who will write you a phenomenal, strong, glowing letter of recommendation. So you want to be in a place that really sees that value, sees your skills, your characteristics, that you're going to be a phenomenal veterinarian one day, and will cultivate that passion in a clinical setting. So if you're feeling stuck in your position, ask the veterinarian or ask the practice manager, can I take on additional roles and responsibilities if you feel stuck, but you like where you're working? If you feel stuck, but you kind of want to change something or you want to go into a new position, just apply, ask, email, call, drop off your resume, try to find new experiences and ask the hard questions. Are you willing to mentor students? Are you willing to support me throughout my vet school application? Are you willing to teach me some clinical skills that I might not know? Are you willing to explain diagnostic tests and running blood work and all of those things? Key clinical skills and husbandry and animal restraint, those are all things that you should gain and skills that you should learn throughout your experiences.
Absolutely. And I really loved, I feel like it's something we haven't touched on previously in our conversation that I think is really key, is the initiative part of it. I think sometimes it's not out of a true, if you're kind of stagnant and you're not taking on more rules, it's not always because they don't think you can. It's sometimes, it's busy.
They don't know what you're comfortable with either.
Exactly. Like, life is busy. They don't know your comfortability. I think it goes back to believing in yourself and taking that initiative. You don't know until you ask, and if you don't, the answer's always going to be no. So really, you have nothing to lose, in my opinion.
Yeah, ask for the responsibility, ask for the roles, or just say, do you mind staying an extra 15 minutes and teaching me how to do this? Or next time that you do a jug pull, can you show me how you did that? And can you show me how you felt and palpated the jugular vein before you poked it? Just little teaching moments, whether it's from the vet assistants, the vet techs, the veterinarians themselves, little teaching moments all add up and help you build those skills.
And learning from everyone. Everyone in that clinic has something to teach you.
100%.
Genuinely.
Shout out techs.
Shout out techs.
Shout out techs.
They're so smart, smarter than I will ever be, genuinely. But I feel like that's a huge part. Like, I learned as much from the techs, even in my externship this summer, as much as I did from the techs as I did from the doctors. Yeah. And
you are not above anyone.
You are not above anyone, ever.
As a veterinarian, as a vet student, as a pre-vet, as anyone, you are not above anyone in the clinic. It is a team. It is a teamwork place, 100%.
Absolutely. I love that. That was another thing, is just, you have, going into it, you have something to learn from everyone, and a lot more people are willing to teach you than you may expect. So taking that initiative to ask, I feel like it's just so key and important.
Everyone in the clinic is able to teach you something. Even you can learn from your veterinary receptionist. Client communication. They're the first person that sees your clients and your patients when they walk in the door, and they're the last to say goodbye.
And they built that relationship.
They've built that relationship. That's who's calling, checking in, scheduling appointments. That is a critical person in your office for client communication. Even they can teach you how to use your software.
I mean, like I said, I've mentioned it so many times now in my externship over this past summer. I leaned on the receptionist so hard with, it was a software I never used. I was only going to be there for a few weeks, so I had a very short time. But leaning on them, they were so willing to help me. They were amazing, and I learned so much from them. Like, a lot of them have been in the field for a while as well. They've seen some things.
Oh yeah, 100%.
They get it.
You just have to be nice, and you have to be polite and patient and kind and ask for help, and people are usually willing to give it.
Absolutely. I do find that's true. And like I said, you never know unless you ask, and it's not going to put you at any disadvantage. I mean, my biggest example of that in life is I was very nervous applying to vet school. My cycle and I almost didn't apply. I put the idea in my head that like I'm not gonna get in, so why would I even apply? Like I was scared.
Yeah.
And I did get in that cycle.
Yeah.
And if I had just never asked or applied, I would have never known. I wouldn't be here. We wouldn't have
100%.
met, and now you're one of my closest friends. Wouldn't have each other. I don't know what you'd do without me.
So true.
Just kidding. You're like my mom, I feel like. But yeah, I feel like you never know until you ask, and if you don't put yourself out, like opportunity dances with those already on the dance floor.
Yeah.
Is something
So
that I literally have a poster printed out in my room, and it's the
Take
truth.
the risk.
Yes.
Take the risk.
Yes.
So we've talked on a variety of topics and challenges and overcoming discouragement and staying positive for yourself, believing in yourself. How do you think that we, as veterinary students, can help promote a positive, supportive, mentor-centric culture in veterinary medicine?
Yeah, honestly, I feel like the biggest thing is that base of just being kindness, like being kind to everyone, which shouldn't be a shocking or revolutionary statement, but it's so easy as a doctor, as a student, you get overwhelmed. You get like you get bogged down, you have so many things, you need to do this and that, but just whenever you can, taking that second, because it means so much more, remembering how much it meant to you when you were in that position. I had a veterinary student who's now Dr. Weatherly, but back then I knew her. She was in my sorority in undergrad here, and when she was a first year veterinary student here, she took me under her wing. She took me to the vet school here. She showed me around. She gave me advice, and it made me feel so much more comfortable. I learned from her, and having done first year here, I know how busy it is. Like she took time out of her schedule and her responsibilities to do that for me, and it made such a difference. And even now, that was probably 4 or 5 years ago, and I still remember that.
Culture is a top-down principle, but it's also a bottom-up. You know, culture it starts when you're a pre-vet, and it goes all the way through when you were a veterinarian yourself, supporting others, being encouraging, providing mentorship, even if it's just a, you got this, I believe in you, or what can I teach you, how can I help, let me show you around the vet school. Those little key things make the difference, or might make the difference in a pre-vet's life, or a vet student's life, or a new veterinarian's life. If you are someone who's been in the field for 30 years, just taking a new grad under your wing, there are so many ways that we can enhance the culture in veterinary medicine, and it just starts by asking, how are you? What can I do to help you? How can I support you? What do you need? Just starting off the conversation and supporting people in any way that they need, build a stronger culture. It takes away the fear of the pre-vet student that you were talking about of, what's my first day going to be like? I'm nervous. I don't want to speak up. What if I'm wrong? Just if someone had checked in on you that day and said, hey, what's your name? Welcome. What can I help you with? Let me show you around. Let me show you how to do this. Let me show you how to do that. That probably would have settled so much of your anxiety and made you feel like, wow, they're happy that I'm here. I can contribute here. Just those little microcosmal things, whether it's from pre-vets, from vet assistants, from techs, from vet students, from new grads to old grads, to people who have been in the field for 50 years, supporting the community doesn't hurt anyone. It only benefits the entire ecosystem. As we end and wrap things up, what would you say one short piece of advice would be for any pre-vets?
Honestly, believing in yourself, number one. That sounds so corny, and I feel like you know me, that's not something that I feel like I would always say in a day-to-day, but genuinely, something you said really stuck with me is that if you don't believe in you, who is? I feel like it's about having that within you and knowing that you can do anything that you want to do.
Finding your support system, being the light, being the positivity, being the change that you want to see. That's where it all starts from. Whether you're a pre-vet or you're a seasoned veterinarian, it doesn't matter what role you play. You can always be positive. You can always have that, be supportive and whatnot.
Absolutely. And I think that's a little bit easier for me to say, being an extrovert. Naturally, I like to talk, if you can't tell.
Yeah, we talk all day.
But I think it doesn't even, if you're a little more introverted, I don't even think it's not always having to do, it's the small things. It's truly the energy you're giving off, being willing to help, being there for people, asking the questions even when it's hard. And I feel like I said, that's just what's important. You don't always have to be the loudest person in the room, although.
Thank you so much for joining us on this episode of No Scrubs, a Vet Med podcast. And thank you so much to Autumn, a second-year veterinary student, for joining us and sharing a little bit more on her experience of staying positive as a pre-vet, through your challenges, through discouragement, etc., and how you've kind of prevailed from that, grown from that, and how you think that veterinary students and people in the field can kind of help change that culture. So thank you so much for joining us today on No Scrubs, a Vet Med podcast, and for sharing your insight as a veterinary student.
Of course, thank you for having me.